We're going to continue our geometry unit today by studying shapes. And as we do that, you should have 3 pages of notes in front of you ready to follow along in this lesson. As we go through this lesson, I'm going to ask you to pause the video throughout it to try some questions on your own. And it is really important that for you to actually do that. You definitely will learn better and understand these concepts better if you get a chance to practice and try them out on your own. And then after you've solved it on your own, you can unpause the video and I'll share the answers with you. So we're going to be studying polygons today. And before I tell you what a polygon is, I'm going to challenge you to try to figure it out on your own. These shapes are polygons and these shapes are not polygons. So pause this video and take a moment to see if you can figure out and predict what the definition of a polygon is. So polygons have to have straight sides, and they also have to be what we call closed. Closed means that they're kind of like a cage, where if I put a little bug in each one of these and he tried to run around, he wouldn't be able to escape and get out to the outside. In other words, the inside is entirely closed off and separate from the outside of the figure. That means polygons cannot have any curves, and they also cannot have any openings. So based on that definition of a polygon as a shape that has straight sides, no curves, no openings, take a moment to go ahead and circle all of the shapes here that are polygons. You should have circled these 6 shapes. All of those have straight sides, they have no curves, and they have no openings. They are closed shapes. Now let's look at some specific names of polygons. First of all, in general, if a polygon's sides and the angles are all congruent or equal, then it's called a regular polygons. These guys look really pretty. They have nice symmetry to them. If the sides and angles are not all congruent, then we call it irregular polygons. And those are the ones that are lopsided. The sides don't match. So looking a little closer at that, again, regular polygons are all the ones that have pretty nice equal sides and angles. Irregular polygons can have sides that are not equal, angles that are not equal, or a combination of neither the sides nor the angles being equal. So now we're going to look at the polygons named by their sides. You certainly are familiar with this one. A triangle is a polygon with 3 sides. In fact, the prefix tri means 3 angles. Pause this video and circle the triangles. You should have circled these 4 shapes as triangles. All of them have exactly 3 sides and also 3 angles, and are straight sides, no curves, and no openings. Here's some real-life examples of where we actually see triangles. Now let's look at quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals are any polygon that has 4 sides. So quad is a prefix that means 4, and lateral means line. So this literally means 4 lines or sides. Pause the video and circle the quadrilaterals. You should have circled these 5 shapes as quadrilaterals. They all have 4 sides, straight sides, no curves, no openings. There are actually a lot of different types of quadrilaterals, and in a later lesson, we're going to look at those different types. They can be classified by how many pairs of parallel sides they have, as well as the lengths of those sides, whether or not they're equal. Next, let's look at pentagons. Pent is a prefix that means 5, so a pentagon has 5 angles. Gon is the Greek word for angle. So pause this video and circle all of the pentagons. You should have circled these 4 shapes. Let's take a look at some real-world examples of pentagons. The famous Pentagon building is in Northern Virginia, and that's the headquarters for the U.S. military. It's literally shaped like a pentagon. Home plate, the black part of a soccer ball, many signs, and even Superman's motto. Next is a hexagon. It is a polygon with 6 sides. Hex means 6, and gon again means angles, so 6 angles. Pause the video and circle your hexagons. You should have circled everything except for this one right here. This one has 7 sides. Here's some real-world examples of hexagons. We have hex bolts. We have, it shows up on a turtle's shell. There's a hexagon. All of the beehive honeycombs are hexagons. The white part of a soccer ball is a hexagon. We said the black are pentagons, the white are hexagons. If you look at most pencils, colored pencils and regular pencils, they usually are hexagons in terms of the number of sides they have. And a lot of tile patterns, whether on the walls or on the floor, are often hexagons as well. A heptagon is a polygon with 7 sides. So notice here it's a hep, H-E-P-T. Go ahead and pause the video and circle your heptagons. The most common example we have of a heptagon is an arrow, as well as these 2 other shapes. Notice that this one would be considered a regular heptagon because the sides and angles are all equal. Heptagons are less common in real life, but I did find a couple examples of them. As we said, an arrow is the most common. The iris of this camera lens is a heptagon. The 50-cent pence in England is a heptagon, though technically it's kind of rounded a little bit. Oftentimes you'll see medicine pill reminder bottles like this, since there's 7 days in a week. There's 7 sides to this heptagon. And sometimes you'll see planters or pots like this that are heptagon shaped. An octagon is a polygon with 8 sides. So pause the video and circle all of your octagons. You should have circled these 3 shapes, all octagons. This one, remember, has a curve, so it wouldn't be considered a polygon, so it can't be an octagon. Octagons are much more common than heptagons in everyday life. Probably the most classic example of an octagon is a stop sign, a wrestling ring, a trampoline, again, patterns with tiles, jewelry, and then also gazebos are usually octagons. By the way, if you want to remember the word octagon, an easy way to remember it is to think of an octopus. An octopus has 8 sides. That prefix oct literally means 8, and so 8 sides is an octagon. The next one is a nonagon. That's the most common term we use here in the United States, is a polygon with 9 sides. Other countries, including England, use the word n-gon to describe them as well, but we'll use nonagon in all of our lessons. Pause this video and find all of your nonagons. You should have circled these 3 shapes, our nonagons, 9 sides. And again, this is less common because it is an odd number of sides, but I did find a couple examples, a table, a jacuzzi, the coins that are in Colombia, actual glass, a room, and a cabinet are all examples of nonagons. And finally, a decagon is a polygon with 10 sides. Dec, you've probably seen before, is in the word decade. It means 10 of something, so 10 years for a decade, 10 sides and angles for a decagon. Pause the video and find your decagons. Real quickly, just a hint as you're counting, it's good to kind of put your mouse on one side and then use your finger to point, and that helps you to keep track of what side you started on. As you get more and more sides, it gets harder and harder to count. So it is usually a good idea to mark in some way the side you started with, so you remember where you started when you come back around. So you should have circled these 3 as examples of decagons, and this last one here would be an example of a regular decagon because all the sides and angles are congruent, are equal to each other. Examples of decagons in real life, the main one is a star. Oop, I put my slide, there we go. So a star in real life, and then it's often used for bowls and plates. You'll notice that the more and more sides we have, the more it starts to look like a circle. There's a whole company that makes watches called Decagon is the name of the company, and clocks often have that as well. And even some pieces of jewelry. This is an earring here that's got 2 decagons that are kind of turned sideways to rotate around one another to make an interesting design. Now, I will mention that there are names for shapes that go beyond decagons, but we don't usually bother to actually learn the names of them. If you really care, you can look them up and Google them. But once we get past 10, we start to just call them like whatever the name of, however many sides it has, and then we put gon after it. So this would be a 12 gon, 15 gon, and 20 gon. And as I mentioned earlier, the more and more sides you have, the closer and closer it approaches a circle. Your assignment for today is to use this first page Polygon puzzles. You'll need that printed out, and then you should have a document you can open up digitally that has examples of lots of different shapes. So those shapes have different colors to them, and as you look at each shape, your first job will be to count how many sides it is, then figure out what you would call that. So for example, this is a blue shape that has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So this would be a blue quadrilateral with 4 sides. So I'd come over here to my riddle, I'd find blue and quadrilateral, and then write the letter under that shape. And they go for the most part in order. All the blues are together, all the yellows go together, and then the red. There are some of them, like this blue one right here is in a separate riddle from the first section. Likewise, there's a yellow one here that's kind of an odd man out that goes with this riddle. And then when you're finished with this assignment, you can go ahead and send me a picture of your final copy.